not know how to get out of there, what to do, but I knew I would say whatever they said. If they said, you're a girl, I would have said, I'm a girl. You're black? Okay, if you want to, I will say whatever you say. And personally, okay, I'm a druggie. I didn't know that. I wasn't even that worried about it. I guess I might have thought I had a small drug problem, but I wasn't concerned about it, and I did not want treatment. I was 100% abducted off the streets at the age of 21 by simply walking in the intake room. So, and this is the exact same thing that happened to Lifton subjects. You know, they were told, you're not a priest, you're not a doctor, you're a communist spy, everything you did, right? And they just assault the crap out of them. And at some point, everyone, the external abuse is enough for everyone to say, okay, I'll do whatever it says for my captors to get off my back. So that's step one. Step two is the establishment of guilt. And Kids of Bergen County was the most dismal place on earth, and I have no doubt about that. All we did ever was talk about what we did wrong, how guilty we felt about it, what despicable human beings we were. Everything was riddled with guilt. There was no progress. People were just stuck around forever. It was not a very good place. So the second step there really happened quickly, because it's the only message, the only information coming into anyone's brain was either how they felt guilty or how others felt guilty. That's all we talked about. Step three is the self-betrayal. And that's where you start renouncing all your friends, anyone you'd ever hung out with. At Kids, it was anyone with long hair, anyone that listened to druggy music, which was apparently all music, anyone that wore a druggy band on their t-shirt was a druggy fan. If you'd smoked a cigarette once with that person in 8th grade, they were a druggy friend, a person you could never have contact with again. So, but in denouncing myself or my friends, I'm only severing my own identity, right? That's who I am. You know, this is the matrix of my existence, and I'm saying I'm a druggie, and everyone I know is a druggie. And I resisted, I was willing to give in for that, into that, and the only thing I resisted was my girlfriend, who was this beautiful, smart, intelligent girl. And yeah, we got drunk sometimes. She didn't really like to smoke weed with me, but I drank with her. Oh yeah, and I'd had sex with her lots of times, so she was clearly my druggy girlfriend. But I protested this for several months. I did not want to give her up. That was, you know, that was a large part of my identity. No wonder I didn't want to give her up. But at some point, I had to, right? And she became just another one of my flippin' druggy friends. So that brings us to step 4, which is the breaking point, total conflict and the basic fear. So I'm forced into a state of antagonistic conflict with both myself and my group. I've severed my own identity, right? I've renounced everyone who was who I was as a person. And then I'm not accepted in this group. Anytime I stand up, I'm ridiculed into the ground. I'm made fun of. My Canadian accent is a joke. You know, I say, pardon me. I never talked like that in my fucking druggy past. Why don't you fucking get, you know, I'm like, I grew up in Canada. You're from Patterson. Holy fuck. Yeah, I say pardon me, even the druggies. Even the druggies say pardon me in Canada. And other things. So I was not used to this kind of treatment. I had always been smart, funny, group leader. No one had ever, I made fun of people sometimes, but I don't remember being, you know, other than just the normal things. So anyways, Lifton subjects said that they felt annihilated. Dr. Vincent said that at this step 4 point. I didn't feel annihilated, but I just remember feeling so fucking horrible and not knowing what was going on and how to get out and what I was gonna do. And it took me like 1 month to tear every bit of my fingernails off. I didn't have any fingernails left. And then I'd take the nails and I'd jam them between my teeth all day. And that's what I did to entertain myself 18 hours a day or relieve the stress or something. And it's not uncommon. Children were constantly getting honest with the ways they secretly found to mutilate themselves. Oh, it's one of my favorite. I tore off my big toenail that hasn't been trimmed in 6 months in the middle of the night, and then carved myself senseless in the night and left a pile of blood for the host mom, and I'm now an issue in group today. That's what I did instead of going to sleep last night. But that's just every day. Every day. Another story. Worse than the one before. So, yeah, no wonder we were at the breaking point. And I got some relief, but other children didn't, and they were held like this for years. And I won't say the names, but the first time I saw this one individual's eyes, which was the first day I was in group, it scared the shit out of me. It was apparent to me, I don't know what, it was apparent to me, I don't know what. It was apparent to me that this child had been broken, was just not in a very good mental state. And I know that he sat there rebellious, lying in his chair, being teased, getting worse treatment than the rest of us for 4 years at that point, and had never even once earned a talk for 5 minutes to go talk to his parents. I remember his dad getting up in group every day, or every day, every open meeting, well, Barry, we're just waiting. Oh, I did it. We're just waiting for you to come over. And it was just so pathetic. But so we've driven these kids to the breaking point. At least the Chinese put people to the breaking point for a reason, so they could offer leniency, which I'll soon get to. But at kids, that step didn't exist for some children. And if they wanted to be defiant or had mental health issues, or who knows what was going on, and lay in their chair, that's where they would lay and be teased 24 hours a day forever, it seemed like. So that leads to step 5, which is leniency and opportunity. And I remember being taken out by a senior staff member, Tony Kazakowicz, and him talking nicely to me and kind of telling me what my character defects were and what my treatment plan was, which I can't imagine what he told me it was. Sit there and motivate harder. Or some fool. No, I do remember the treatment plan. And then Tony asked me, do you have any questions? And I told him, well, I'm quite concerned. I didn't tell him about my I did tell him about my hallucinations. I told him I'm hallucinating and I'm mutilating myself. I didn't use those words, but I'm like, look what I'm doing to myself. And he's like, don't worry about it. Just work your program, get honest, motivate harder, try harder, talk about your past, and everything will be okay. Okay, super. So, I don't know what, but it sounds so stupid now, but this was an opportunity, right? And I thought the other side of the opportunity was to end up like this individual whose eyes I saw terrified me, or you could try this way, try our way, reform yourself. A subject of Lifton said this about the process: there are only 2 ways for you to go. One way leads to life, the other to death. If you want the road that leads to life, you must take our way. You must reform and re-educate yourself. It was the first glimmer of the hope. I felt there might be a way out. And that's exactly how I felt. And so now, this is how the thought reformers get inside your head, or one of the steps. I became motivated to do exactly what they wanted me to do, which I wanted to confess and reform and try my hardest, because I felt that was my only hope. And so I seized that hope, and I'm going to pursue that with all my heart. And so for the first couple months, I'm my papa, but now I'm still just mumbling the words, but I'm doing it because I want to. Because I have an energy inside me to wake up in the morning and say, in my first thing. And so that's step 5. Step 6 is the compulsion to confess. The compulsions to confess, how does this, so that was the whole program, was confess, confess. What did you do? My past, my past, my past, my past. And I don't know, every time you get up, you do it wrong. It's not right. You don't have enough guilt. You're not, it's not, and nothing's ever right. And it's always under attack, and I was always trying to confess. And at some point I'm just like, okay, fuck, I get it. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever said, anything I've ever thought, everything I'm thinking, everything I'm ever gonna think, I'm just gonna fucking tell you guys. And so that's what the brainwashers do too, is they push you into a total soul purge, where I've decided once again of my own volition, I'm just gonna tell them everything. I'm gonna tell them everything I ever, and that was my decision. Which leads me to step 7, which is the channeling of guilt. And the total soul purge does specific work for the brainwashers. So I tell them everything I've ever done, but it's expressed from the point of view that I'm a guilty druggie. And then something really strange happens inside my head, right? Because there's one problem, because there's a thought I'm having that I can never tell anyone. And that thought is, this place is fucking nuts and I need to get the hell out of here. I need to get out of here. Whoa, look what just happened to Brett. You know, my God, right? These moments. Your sister, the day I told you last night. Why did why her too? So anyways, I don't think I was probably alone in that. But there's a problem. I've already decided I'm going to tell them everything, right? And so now I feel guilty about exactly what they said I was in the first place. A lying, druggy, loser, piece of crap, right? Who else would want to leave this place besides a druggie? This is the straightest place on earth, right? So that's pretty rough. And so I walked 24 hours a day. I walked around feeling guilty about my absolute dishonesty, that I was just complying to get the hell out of there, which I don't think was any kind of abnormal reaction. So that's step 8, is the reeducation and the logical dishonoring. Okay, so at kids, there was 2 parts of every rap, the past part and then the now part. The past part was for confessions. In my past, I did this, I feel so guilty about it. And then the now part, you're supposed to admit to current problems and then relate some sort of meaningless kid's ideology to solve it. And so one of my favorite ones was always about food, right? And so someone would get up and say, oh boy, today I was at the lunch line and there were 4 portions of food out, and I thought about taking the largest portion, but then I realized I was being a selfish druggie. Here's the important part. In my past, I would have taken the largest portion. But now I'm learning to think and act straight and live like one of you other great people, right? And so these are all we were doing is sitting around in a warehouse. I mean, how many now problems could have we possibly had? But apparently a lot, because someone got set back in the now part of the rap every effing day. They were dangerous places, and I was terrified to speak in the now part of the rap. And my formal introduction one day, it was a guy's rap. I'd been in about 9 months. Dean Voss, I will say his name, he was the leader. of that rap, because he currently leads the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Center, a third generation straight kids, etc. So anyways, he was that rap. He was there to start Kids of the Canadian West, which didn't happen. But the rap title was, how are you being a snake in the, in your past, how are you a snake in the grass, right? So people got up and told stories that fit the topic somehow. And then the now turn was, how are you being a snake in the grass now, right? So I'm motivated, man, like always, and praying you never get called on, right? So I've never been called on in the now part of the rap before, and I get called on first, right? Which was the plan, of course. I stand up, I'm like, I'm not being a snake in the grass now, right? Blah, blah, blah. And if you're an explosion of motivation for anyone that was in kids, I'm like, oh. And I got fucking roasted for 10 or 15 minutes, just screamed at, shoved, spit on, pushed. Oh, it's pretty intense. And so I sat, and then I get sat down, sit the fuck down, and I sit down, and I was pretty discouraged. I felt like I'd been trying really hard for like 8 months, and now like everything was lost. They apparently weren't happy with my honesty, and I wasn't lying about anything, I swear to God, except this one thing. I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. That's what I was never lying. It was horrible. So anyways, here's Albert Camus noticed something interesting. I got a quote from him, and that is, the authors of confession write especially to avoid confessing, to tell nothing of what they actually know. And so that's what happens in the process of trying to hide my real secret. I'll say anything and extend this kid's guilt, druggy ideology to it. Well, trying to, if I could just relieve the tension I feel from wanting to get out of here, but of course you never can. And so now, Lifton calls it the logical dishonoring, is because you fall into dishonor in your own eyes by your own lights, right? In the process of pouring out just everything and uniting it to this guilt and shame. So, rough shit, man. Step 9, progress and harmony. So, the emergent identity that you start creating at some point needs some rewards from your group, right? Every person wants to be accepted and valued and all those kinds of things from their significant others. And you get this weird feeling like kids. I have this quote from Dr. Vincent, who was a subject of Robert J. Lifton's, and he said at the end he felt the deep satisfaction of solving all problems, of group intimacy in living, working, and suffering, of surrendering himself to an all-powerful force, of laying himself bare in the catharsis of personal confession, of sharing the moral righteousness of a great crusade of mass redemption. And that one especially was super important. Like, there became a point where I just felt like I was a part of the world, and I was copped out on the way back on the bus, telling people, oh, world's greatest drug rehab, you know, like, I really believed that and thought I was a part of that. And, you know, by horribly abusing that person, I'm helping him. I'm saving him from drugs. Like, it's terrible. Step 10 for Lifton was final confession, the summing up, but that step did not exist at Kids. No one was ever finished, ever. No one was ever released. It was never over for anyone ever. The only way out was to escape, or some lucky people, their parents even helped them. But a lot of children, they just had to run away and run from your family, run from all your significant others. There's nowhere to go. You don't have any druggy friends even anymore. That was 6 years ago. He's married. Or whatever. So there's 2 more steps, and they're super important. So I'll try and get through them quick. Step 11 is rebirth. And this isn't a total restitution of my former self, but a fusing of identities. And so at a certain point, they let me sort of start becoming myself again. Like, I can tell it, like, motivate, because they know I'm going to say something funny even, and get to tell a joke once in a while. Tell a joke, make fun of someone, really. I'm sure. I don't remember. It's, a lot of funny things happen, I'm not going to lie. And I was like a group leader. I was only on third phase, but I kind of got to do, I don't know, I just felt like myself at some point. But I'm ripping my newcomers to pieces. I'm treating this person horribly. I'm chasing you down and tackling you through a glass door to prevent your escape, right? I'm doing all these things, but it's me, right? Who's doing this? Is it this kids created? Because I think step 11, when they let you reintroduce part of your former identity, just like it fuses them together. And I think this is the step. It might have not happened for the other children because they didn't really have former selves to even identify with, but it really got inside my head because I've never been able to figure out who's me, who's the program, what's real, what's not real, I may seem like I have borderline have it together right now. I don't know what's going on large portions of the time. I have to think about things forever. I just, and I think this step 11 is what got inside my head and what makes me say, that place just made me, that's who I am. I'm okay with it. Anyways, I have one more step, and it's step 12, and Robert Lifton calls it release, transition, and limbo. And I read that, I was like, I didn't agree with that just intuitively off the bat. And I think one thing it might be called is like undoing step 11, which is these fused identities and figuring that out for the rest of your life, and I'm not sure it's even possible. So Lifton called this the most, or this identity crisis outside of the program just as dangerous as the ones inside. And I'm like, just as dangerous is 10 times more dangerous, because this identity crisis, you don't have this totalistic milieu making sure you don't kill yourself, right? And for the people I know, his phrase of transition, of limbo, it just doesn't cut it, right? That's not my friends. I have at least a dozen friends that have killed themselves, and just dozens are dead. That's just the people I happen to meet in 15 months. That's not the sum total of all the damage. And I think Nick's not here, but Nick told me, and a couple other people that read my thesis, like, I'd like to read more about what happened to you guys, us, after the program. And I think that's like super important too. Like, we were horribly abused at a really significant time in our lives. And I think it's had profound effects on my adult life, right? It's 25 years later, and some days I feel like I can barely function. So for my thesis, I had a collection of things that I presented. These are kind of my sampling. This is sort of what happened to me, except the killing myself. And I think it's representative of how some of us kids have felt for the last 15, 20, 25 years, however long it's been. So this is what happens to when you abuse children like this, I believe. Number one, we kill ourselves. We feel extreme loneliness. We fail at relationships, and we inevitably find abusive partners, as that is all we know. We have nightmares for decades. We cannot determine because of our youth what our pre-totalistic thought reform self even was. We fail miserably at step 12 because we were children, yet transition in limbo my ass, and because of a near complete synthesis of our innocent former selves with the program created totalistic self in step 11. We were just a bunch of little kids. We become obsessively paranoid. We have panic attacks, become agoraphobic, and suffer from OCD. We cannot differentiate between what is real and what is not. We find ourselves in psychiatric institutions over and over again. We turn into the drug addicts we never were as children. We stumble. We fell in love with kids. They said they had an absolute and divine ideology that was applicable at all times and places. But our escape to nothingness, and I gotta stress absolute nothingness for a lot of people, no family, no friends, no money, no jacket, for me, no clothes, no nothing. Our escape to nothingness brought on an overwhelming, ever-present, and complete existential loneliness that we never could have anticipated. What I mean by this complete existential loneliness is just never fitting in the world ever. I'm different. These are normal people. No one could ever possibly relate to my experiences. And like I said, I thought I was escaping. We thought we were escaping, I'm sure, and we thought, oh, our troubles are over. But I've found that has not been the case, and that it's more like a life sentence, step 12, and it's killed dozens and dozens of my friends in and out of the program. These program kill, and they kill decades later. I have some more material. I don't have time from a philosopher, but she did some studies of some Holocaust survivors, and people cruise along for decades and then they just can't take it anymore. For some reason, being so horrifically tortured just really affects people. And so I love Robert J. Lifton, but I got to disagree with him on this step. I think he missed the boat, that he didn't understand what it would be like for anyone to come out of these kind of totalistic societies and try and be in the real world again. Wow, that's it.
Yes, that was awesome. I wish we had more time. I really, yeah. You know, Sean, if you're coming tomorrow, maybe there's a little bit of window that we can do that. I mean, Sunday. Tomorrow's the demonstration. Well, then it'll work perfectly for Sunday then. So, yeah.
That's good. That's interesting. The whole brainwashing. Because we sat here thinking, and a lot of us thought, why do we never just get together and just ambush the place? It's too much of us. Why don't we
Right.
just go over and like charge and run?
Well,
Brainwashing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the fear.
Yeah.
Yep. Who is this? Is this Phil's? Is this yours? Is that yours? Oh, is it Sean's?
Oh yeah, that's mine.
Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap up today. Remember, Nick